That's who fuels our economy, and I think about 85% of our businesses here in the community are small business. Those are family-owned businesses, people who put their life and their blood on the line for us every day to give back to who we are. And if you look around, when you go to certain things, you'll see most of the donors that people are there. It's the small businesses that we go back and ask over and over again for the donations and the charitable give-outs. With that, our member spotlight this month, lawn care. It's time to start sprucing things up if you haven't already. We have a lot of people here today that are from those sectors of lawn care, house maintenance on the lawn, and also with landscaping items and such. When I say your name, if you'd stand up: Evergreen Lawn Care, Yellow Banks Lawn and Landscape LLC, U.S. Lawns, your turf, our lawn, SS Earthscapes, Sam's Club, great partner of ours, Lowe's, Home Depot, Walmart, Night Lighters, First Impressions, Lawn Service, The Grounds Guys, Mosquito Joe, and Hobgood Landscaping. These are all of our members that invest in us, so we ask that you do business with them. Now, our May ribbon cuttings for our new members: Sexton and Vallandingham on May 6th, Vineyard Primary Care with Dr. Jeremy Luckett, Modern Office is on May the 20th, the Foundation for Davis County Public Schools on May 20th as well, and on May 27th, the Single Thread Boutique, which is a new boutique in downtown Owensboro. Please come out to those. Also, at your place, we have all of our renewals for this month. If you would look through those in your chamber matters, we would appreciate it, and thank those people if you get a chance to see them. Okay, lastly, every month we thank John Conti. So as you notice, today they have a new logo, a new marketing logo, and it's I Love John Conti. So they've asked us this month, for everybody, they're going to do just a brief video, and you guys are always like the best video group in town. Have you noticed that lately?
So well dressed.
I'm telling you, so well dressed, so well behaved. So you tell me what we're supposed to do. Okay. Are you going to tell me?
Well, I can tell it.
Just tell me and I'll tell you.
Just
Let's see if let's play telephone, see if I get it wrong.
enthusiastically.
Enthusiastically.
Everybody hold their cups up and say, I love John Conti.
Everybody
Did y'all
hold your
get that?
cups up. Here we go. And enthusiastically
Yes.
say, I love John Conti. I love John Conti. Now can we go, woo? No?
Yeah, let's do
Okay, do
let's
it one more time and then go,
and do
woo!
it.
But don't spill your coffee.
Okay, one more time. All right, 1, 2, 3. I love John Conti. Woo! All right, that's great. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Awesome.
And with that, I will sit down. Thank you very much.
We are so thrilled to have our featured speaker with us today and to introduce him to you, the chair of the board, Adam Hancock.
Good morning. I'd like to thank Gorman Recruiting for being our breakfast sponsor this morning. I think that's the 4th year. We appreciate you being here again. Thanks to Kyle and Helen for being here. I'm extremely excited to introduce our guest speaker this morning for a couple of reasons. One is background, and two, his brother is KWC's president, Bart Darrell. Bracken said he'd share a few stories on him, so I'm excited about that. As president and chief executive officer of Logitech, Bracken P. Darrell is responsible for Logitech's strategy for growth and profitability and for the company's operations. Mr. Darrell joined Logitech as president in April 2012 and assumed the role of chief executive officer in January of 2013. Mr. Darrell has more than 20 years of experience in business management and brand management in successful global consumer companies, including Whirlpool, Procter & Gamble, and General Electric. His broad executive management experience has spanned manufacturing, supply chain, product innovation, consumer services, and marketing, reaching customers in mature and emerging markets. He has led growth and reinvention for iconic brands such as Old Spice, Gillette, Braun, KitchenAid, and Whirlpool. Bracken Darrell holds a MBA degree from Harvard Business School and a BA in English from Hendrix College in Arkansas. A frequent guest on CNN Bunny and frequently quoted in the Wall Street Journal, Bracken's big brother Bart states that his most remarkable achievement is at the age of 12, Bracken led Eastern Little League in home runs. Give a warm Rooster Booster welcome to Bracken P. Darrow.
Let me start by saying Bart gets the podium way too often for me to try to take him on here. I know better. I've seen him in action. First, I have to say, it's really a thrill to see Ted Smith here. You know, he had a real impact on my career, much bigger than he'll ever know. And I just want to mention that, Ted, because you know, you don't get a chance to stand in front of an audience in Owensboro very often to be able to say that. And I've got good company in that. I saw Steve Nelson and other people recently, Jim Hackett, who will say the same thing. The second thing I want to say is, you know, a lot of things have not changed in Owensboro. You know, it's great to be here and see so many of my friends, more than I expected, and to say the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, which I think that's the first time I've done that since I was in high school. It's not the first time I've prayed since I left, but it is the first time I said the Pledge of Allegiance. A lot of things, but so many things here have changed. It's really amazing. You know, the downtown, and I was here a year and a half ago, so I've gotten little taste of this, but the downtown is just so different. This place is amazing. I have to say, this is really world class. This could fit right into Zurich or Lausanne or any of our offices, any of the places where we have our offices around the world. The new restaurants, the new businesses, the riverfront, it's all just so amazing. You know, the other thing that is not changed, or that has changed, is for some reason now you need a hazmat business, which scares me to death. And I'm thrilled to see that now there's a Mosquito Joe's here, because I remember the mosquito bites that I used to get in the summers here over and over. I want to start by, because I do know many of you, and you know a little too much about me from my past. Many of you know a little too much about things I did growing up, including with friends throwing the entire ensemble of furniture into the Darneck Club pool and almost being arrested. Getting a D- in Mr. Beatley's pre-cal class my senior year in high school. And Bart will remember this, shooting at the wrong goal in the middle of a game in the 8th grade, and fortunately missing it. So that leaves me feeling just a little bit defensive. You know a little too much. Some of you know a little too much, so I thought I'd say a little bit about what's gone right over the last few years at Logitech. Actually, one of the things that's gone right is you're using one of our products, which is kind of cool, and there's more to come on that one. You know, we've gone from declining 7% to growing 9%. We've tripled our profit. We've grown market share in almost every category. We've won over 100 design awards. And if that sounds like I'm bragging, which I really don't like to do, it's because I feel like I'm coming to home with my family, because Owensboro is my home and you, therefore, are my family. Now, I thought I'd just take a few minutes and just summarize some of the things that have worked for the businesses that I've been in and for me personally. And I think they might work for you and for your businesses and even for Owensboro. There's no magic here. Most of these things you already know, but I find it's really good to be reminded by somebody else who's been through some of the same life experiences. So I'm going to talk about them. The first one is, and I'll go through each of these in detail, but in a little more detail, but the first one is think for yourself. The second one is be yourself. The third one is know yourself. And the last one is never be too satisfied with yourself. Let me start by thinking for yourself. You know, it's probably, if you're really young here, you may have trouble reacting to this. For those of you who are a little older like me, you'll be able to relate to it, I think. You know, I grew up most of my life starting here in Owensboro, and I was from first grade all the way through high school, listening very carefully to the people around me who impressed me and trying to mimic what they did. And I think that was a good thing. But at some point, and it really probably didn't come to full culmination until 5 or 6 years ago, I realized that if I kept listening to everybody around me and kept trying to mimic what they're doing, I could never be better than a little bit above average. And so I changed the way I thought about that. In fact, when I became the CEO of Logitech, there are a lot of CEO organizations in Silicon Valley where I live, and they offer, when you're a new CEO, you get recruited by all of them, because basically you pay a significant fee for the right to be in that group, and then you have a network you can exchange ideas with. Now, I have to say, from the very beginning, I didn't join them. It was very intuitive, I think, because I was scared. I was intimidated. I thought I wouldn't have much to say, and my peers would have everything to say. As time marched on, every time I ran into a fellow CEO that was anything close to my space, I found myself a little bit intimidated and trying to cover my ears because I really didn't want to hear what they had to say. They always sounded brilliant, and they always sounded like they really had great strategic ideas, and I was a little afraid of them because I was afraid that I would follow them. So in the end, I've managed for 4 years not to join any of those. I have very limited interaction with fellow CEOs, and I do what I really think is the right thing to do, and I listen very hard to everybody around me, and I meet with a lot of people I don't know. I meet every week with probably 3 or 4 entrepreneurs with companies the size of many of you in the room, and I've learned more from those people than I would from my peers or from the big companies that I worked for. Big companies do very few things right relative to a good small company. And I spent most of my career in big companies that I can speak with some credibility. My second comment is, or my second area is be yourself. So these are all very attached and relatable, relatable to each other. You know, I've gotten to work on some really great brands and some really great companies. And, you know, I've even been called a turnaround specialist once in a while, which I really don't like because I don't like the idea of just turning things around. Now, I think that's fair because I've tended to leave before my past could catch up with me. And so I've tended to stay 5 to 7 years in different companies. And this time I intend to change that. But I don't like the idea of a turnaround specialist. And sometimes I've been successful and sometimes I have failed miserably. I guess with Old Spice and Logitech, though, you could say I was quite successful. In both cases, and I think this is where it's about being yourself, in both cases it really started with finding what is the brand or the business really all about. Not trying to be something you're not, and not going out and talking about what you're going to be before you start to be it. So in both cases, we really focused in those cases on improving products, or if you're in a service business, improving the service. Now, I like the sponsors discussion today because you can just tell that is it Gorman? He has a real passion for his business. You know, I think if you start with a passion and then you let that bleed into the experience you create for people, it makes all the difference. And I'm sure it's made all the difference in our company. Your reputation will follow the experience of the product. So I learned that the hard way. I think it's true of Owensboro too. You know, when I come back to Owensboro, I'm always amazed by every time I come back. I feel a little surprised by how warm and how wonderful this place is. And I'm not just saying that because I'm here. This time even more so. So I'd say, you know, my next area is about knowing yourself. Now, knowing yourself is a tricky one. Know thyself is one of these often quoted proverbs. I think it's Greek, but none of us probably really ever does. I think we try. I have an acquaintance from Lausanne in Switzerland, where our corporate headquarters and our R&D center sits in Lausanne, Switzerland. And on that campus, there are some amazing things going on, including the leading brain expert in the world is there, building a full-scale simulation of the human brain, 1 trillion neurons. He's filled up 2.5 supercomputers so far with equations. And what he says is that, you know, actually, and this is a little scary, you're actually not the same person throughout the day. That the chemistry and electricity in your brain, and it changes your consciousness. So you're actually different throughout the day. And I've certainly been around people I felt like were very different throughout the day. So, you know, I think knowing yourself isn't an easy thing, but I do think education is a great place to do it. Yeah, I was in a discussion yesterday at this thing called the Milken Institute. It was very interesting. They talked, well, the last question was, what should we do with education in the state of California, because it was in California. And it was an interesting discussion. It went back to the thing that everybody's talking about now, which is STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and math. And I think it's kind of a no-brainer that we need more and more people who understand those areas, STEM. And I'm still, but I will say I think I'm sort of a lonely, I was a lonely voice, but a lot less lonely these days in kind of speaking up in Silicon Valley for the liberal arts. I think, what's going to happen over the next 20 years, if it hasn't already struck you, it strikes me because I'm in this business and I sit in the middle of Silicon Valley, is that everything is going to be connected. The chair you're sitting in, the table in front of you, probably the plates and glasses, the ceiling, the floor, the lights, everything. In your homes, the estimates currently are that there will be about 500 different devices or things connected in your home by the year 2022. Software and writing software code is just it's a huge growth business, growth function, growth experience. And all that's going to happen in a relatively short time frame. And this explosion and integration of technology into everything is going to be a little scary, really exciting. It'll bring new benefits, and it's going to be amazing. And I think when the dust clears on all that, we're going to discover that the liberal arts, the broad learning, the curiosity, the ability to write, express yourself, to think critically, are going to be a lot more important than ever. Mark my words, it will be a lot more important than ever. So I don't believe that the way to improve education is really to choose to replace STEM or replace the liberal arts focus with a STEM focus. I think it's to really have the liberal arts include STEM. And I think that's where we're all headed. Now, I'm just going to tell a couple more stories just for fun. One is another little thing that I learned before I started this job. And it would amaze my mom if she were here to hear me say this, but when I was just about to take the job, I was about 2 weeks away. I met with an entrepreneur who's a CEO and a founder of a big company in Israel. It's actually the biggest. It's kind of like the Rubbermaid of Europe. And I went to see him, and I wanted to get his advice. The company was in trouble, and he's a really smart guy. And I asked him what he would do, and he said, boy, it looks like a tough situation, and he said a lot of other things. He gave me a little bit of advice, but honestly, not too much, because he didn't know too much. But I got up to leave the table. It was breakfast just like this one. It was just him and me. And I got about to the door, and he said, and one more thing. And I turned around, and he said, you wash the windows and you clean the floors. And I said, absolutely. And I walked out the door, and I thought, I wonder what he meant by that. And I acted like I knew, but I didn't. And I got down, by the time I got to the bottom of the elevator, I started to think hard about that. And then when I got into the building at Logitech the first day, I knew exactly what he meant. He meant it was all about ownership. If you're a leader, or no matter where you are in an organization, no matter where you are in your life, it's about ownership. If you clean the floors and wash the windows, you own it. You own everything. And that's exactly what you'd love for everybody working in your business to be, and certainly the people at the top. If they don't do it, nobody else will. The last little story, or second to last little story, and you'll have to cut me off if I go too long, is about, it's not really a story, it's just a reality. I think as life marches on, I think one of the things that you realize is you do have a lot of failures, and if you're lucky, you have a lot of failures to learn a lot from. I've had a disproportionate share. You also have a lot of successes and things that make you feel good, make you satisfied, and they're wonderful. As Peter Alexander, who's an artist that I met not too long ago, said, the great thing about success is it really inspires you to do more great stuff. So it's important to have success, but I think it's really dangerous to have success. And if you have too much success, it can limit your ambition. It can get in the way of what you could do. And I think you need to, every time you get close to success, you need to remind yourself you could have done better. And I feel the same way about satisfaction. In fact, satisfaction is maybe even more dangerous. Satisfaction is great. You should always strive for it. But the minute you get it, remind yourself how completely scary that is, because satisfaction comes with a scary little attachment, which is, and it's, I think the satisfaction itself is quite innocent. But the problem with satisfaction is it can slowly start to erode your view of what's really great. And suddenly things that you used to think were really great are good, and the things you used to think were good are okay. Your definition of great becomes equivalent to okay, but it's great to you, and all of a sudden satisfaction gets in the way instead of being a good thing. So I have a belief that this idea of never being, certainly celebrate successes and seek satisfaction, but never let it get too close to you, or it will really get in the way. Now I'm going to close on one last story. and then I have a few other comments. The last story is about a company I don't know. I don't know the company, I know the name. I don't know the CEO, and I've never been to the place where the company is. So you might wonder why I'm telling this story. I think it's a very interesting story, and I just heard it on Friday. The company's name is Ravi, R-A-V-I. It's a French company in a very small town in France. They make some kind of metal molding, heavy metal. They're a foundry, essentially, that does specialized parts. They compete with Chinese companies who are very big volume scale manufacturers. And the story goes that the founder of the company, it's a true story, the founder of the company was, the existing CEO, is about a $100 million company, was going to retire. So the CEO met a person, he wanted to give him advice on his company. So he flew in his helicopter, he's a wealthy man, to see the company with this friend of his, to introduce him to the company and get his advice, knowing that his current CEO was going to step down in about 6 months. So on the helicopter, they had a discussion. They landed the helicopter in the field in front of the manufacturing site. All the employees came out. The founder stepped out and introduced his friend as the new CEO, that he would be taking over in 6 months, which was a surprise to the new CEO because he hadn't talked to him about it. Now, for whatever reason, this new CEO decided to accept the job, and he did, but for 6 months he was told he could do nothing but listen and watch, and he did. He did nothing but listen and watch the existing business, the existing team, for 6 straight months. The day came for him to take over, and he did. And when he took over, he said, from now on, we're only going to have 2 rules in this company, 2 simple rules. And I think this will go for any company in this room. He said, I've been watching you, and you know, every time you need, for example, a new pair of gloves, and in a foundry, gloves are really important, it's a safety feature. He said, every time you need a new pair of gloves, you have to walk all the way across the factory